Welcome back. We got a new Syria video here, and June hasn't even started, but we already have a very big transfer story, which is Dean Huijsen to Real Madrid. Now, he's going to Madrid, a Spanish club, from Bournemouth, an English club, but Syria is very much involved here because Huijsen is an ex-Juventus defender who played just one game with the Bianconeri, and he also played for Roma on loan last season and joined Bournemouth for around 15 million last summer. But after less than one season in England, he has already joined Real Madrid, who confirmed the purchase today for 60 million, which was Huijsen release clause. And Juventus will get just 6 million from this deal because they got a percentage on the next sale with Bournemouth. But of course, given the importance of the deal and obviously the importance of Real Madrid, which is arguably the biggest club in the world right now, it's clear that Juventus do have a lot of regrets. But first of all, why Heisen left Juventus in the summer? He explained it firsthand um, during the current campaign, saying that he hoped he would stay at Juventus. He also posted a few pictures of himself as a kid wearing the Juventus shirt and proving that he had been following the team since he was a little kid. But Juventus needed to solve a few financial issues, and so they decided to sell Heisen and other academy product during the last season. Of course, when you do these sort of decisions, it's always hot and cold. You never know how it's going to end up. Juventus made the same decision for many other product of their academy. For example, Enzo Barrenechea and Samuel Ealing Jr., who joined Aston Villa and didn't even play 1 second for the Villains because they were loaned out pretty quickly. Now, the fact that Hausen left Juventus um, pretty surprised a little bit the defender as well, because he said that one day Giuntoli and Motta went to him and said they were planning to sell him because they needed those money. Now I know that Juventus weren't also particularly happy with the fact that Hoisen had chosen Roma over Frosinone a few months earlier, because Hoisen was on the verge of joining Frosinone on loan. The deal seemed pretty much done, but then Jose Mourinho stepped in. He approached the player, he called him, and Roma needed a defender on loan midway last season. And so he convinced the defender to join the Giallorossi on a dry loan deal. Roma never had the chance to sign this player because they didn't have an option to make his move permanent. So um, the way that the negotiations with Roma developed didn't please Juventus too much, and so in the end, Hoisen went to Roma where he played for 6 months. But then, when he returned to Juventus, the Bianconeri had already made the decision of listening to offers for him. But of course, it's a big regret right now, especially because Juventus uh, would have needed this sort of defender because of that project and because of the options they have in defense. Bremer got injured very early in the season. The other option at centre back was Federico Gatti, partially Pierre Calulu as well, who was initially signed for the right back position and then quickly moved inside the pitch for a centre back role. So Juventus didn't have stunning options in central defense, and it was already clear that the decision to sell Hoisen for that price could have been a mistake from the Bianconeri. I think it's a little bit different from Moise Kean, for example, because if you spoke to 11 people, to 10 people last summer, 11 would told you that they had a great deal in selling Ken because he had scored no goals for Juventus in 2023-24, and his contract was expiring at the end of the current campaign. So he only had a year left in his contract, and he didn't want to extend. So in that situation, getting 18 million for this sort of player in this contract situation was a good deal, regardless of the season that Ken is having at Fiorentina right now. While Hoisen, it was always a very good and promising prospect. So especially with lack of options in defense, uh, even us on Football Italia wrote that probably wasn't the best decision to give him away for such a slow fee. And in the end, it proved to be the right view, because this kid is joining Real Madrid for a massive fee, and of course he is expected to be a big regret for Juventus going forward. Now, Juventus, of course, will need to rebuild. I published a few videos already about the situation in Turin, and more will come, because, of course, there will be a lot to say about Juventus, starting from the possible new coach, to new players, to those who are going to leave in the summer. But Hoisen is clearly a big blow for the Bianconeri, because he's joined the best club in the world for a huge fee. And to think that he was under contract with them just 1 year ago, it's surely a source of big regret for the Bianconeri, and surely for their fans. But it's not the only regret that Juventus have in their history. Probably the biggest regret is Thierry Henry, who spent 6 months in Turin in 1999 before joining Arsenal and becoming the biggest player, arguably, in the club's history. Now, the situation with Harry was different, because he joined Juventus at a very difficult moment, the worst moment in Marcello Lippi's history at Juventus, because he resigned after just a few weeks from Harry signing. He resigned in February 1999, but Harry had only played 2 games under Lippi before Ancelotti was appointed to replace the Tuscan coach, who would return to Juventus a few years later and even go on to win the World Cup with Italy in 2006. Now, Henry has spoken a few times about his decision to leave Juventus, saying that he wasn't playing much with Lippi, but then things improved with Ancelotti. He was playing slightly outside position, a lot of outside position with Lippi, because he was played as a winger in a 3-5-2 system, and it's clearly not the best role that Henry covered in his career. But the biggest problem with Harry was, according to what he says, Juventus director Luciano Moggi. Henry once said that Moggi lacked respect towards him, and so he decided to leave Juventus and join Arsenal. Of course, when he joined Juve, as I already said, Juventus were in a difficult situation, and Henry was seen as one of the most promising prospects in French football, and he more than fulfilled his potential with Arsenal and Barcelona during his career. And still today, I think Harry has to be seen as the biggest regret in the Juventus history. There were other names in the past for Juventus. Before Henry, there was Christian Vieri, who spent just 1 season at Juventus and joined Atletico Madrid in 1997. Sorry, he was about to sign a contract extension with Juventus, but then he got a big offer from Atletico Madrid, and so he decided to leave. Now, Vieri has played for many clubs in Italy, including Lazio and Inter, and is arguably the best striker of his generation. He was the one who led the Azzurri attack in the 1998 World Cup and 2002 World Cup. He scored 14 goals in 37 appearances in his first and only season at Juventus, and who knows what the future would have been with Juventus if Vieri had stayed in Turin. Another big regret that Juventus have, but it's going a little bit under the radar, is Kingsley Coman. He also spent just 1 season in Turin, the 2014-15 campaign. Now, he also played a couple of matches in the following season, but then he was sold pretty quickly to Bayern Munich. But the common situation is different from Vieri, from Henry, and from Hoisen as well, because when he joined Juventus, and he, as I said, spent just 1 season there, Juventus were playing under Allegri initially with a 3-5-2 system, and then in the second part of the season, especially from a game against Olympiacos in the Champions League, he switched to a 4-3-1-2 formation, because Juventus had a lot of very strong central midfielders with Pirlo, Vidal, Marchisio, and Paul Pogba. So there was no room for Coman. There was no room for a natural winger like the Frenchman, and they had signed him from PSG on a free transfer. And when Bayern Munich came and offered 20 million, they thought it was a good deal for a player who was not exactly part of the plans, even if later in his career, Coman has proved to be one of the best French wingers of his generation, won the Champions League in Munich and won 9 Bundesliga titles as well. So, in my opinion, these are the biggest transfer regrets for Juventus. And of course, I mean, Hoisen has still plenty to prove in his career, but the fact that a club like Real Madrid picked him and pay so much money to sign him after just one season in the Premier League suggests that the kid is really destined for big things. And I'm pretty sure that Juventus will be thinking for a lot of time about this very good, excellent prospect that has joined the best club in the world, but was under contract with them just 1 year ago. This was all I had on the biggest Juventus transfer regrets. Follow me for more videos, and if you like this content, subscribe to my channel because more will come over the next few days. Grazie.